I never thought I'd be standing in my own kitchen, watching my son announce to a room full of strangers that he was selling my house. But let me start from the beginning, because the signs were there if I'd been willing to see them. My name is Robert Harrison, though everyone calls me Bob. I'm 67 years old, and I've lived in this house for 42 years. Sarah and I bought it the year Jason was born. She picked out every paint color, planted every tree in the yard, spent countless Saturdays refinishing the hardwood floors by hand. When she passed 2 years ago, this house became more than just walls and a roof. It became my last connection to her. The house sits on a quiet street in northeast Portland, one of those neighborhoods that used to be working class, but has turned into what the real estate folks call highly desirable. The old corner store, where Sarah used to buy milk, is now a boutique coffee shop charging $7 for a latte. Young couples push expensive strollers past houses that sell for numbers I still can't wrap my head around. I'm retired now, spent 35 years teaching high school English, the last 10 as vice principal. The pension isn't generous, but it's enough. The house has been paid off for 12 years. My property taxes are manageable because of a senior freeze program. I grow vegetables in the backyard, walk to the library on Tuesdays, volunteer at the literacy center on Thursdays. I'm not lonely. I'm not struggling. I'm just quiet about my contentment, which I've learned some people mistake for sadness. Jason, my son, took a different path than me. He went into corporate finance right out of business school, moved to Seattle for 8 years, chasing bigger salaries, then came back to Portland 3 years ago when he made senior vice president at an investment firm downtown. He's smart, driven, always has been. Sarah used to worry he worked too hard, never took time to just sit and breathe. I worried too, but I kept it to myself. He's a grown man. He makes his own choices. Then 6 months ago, he called with news. He'd met someone. Her name was Melissa Chen. She was 29, worked in luxury real estate. They were engaged after dating for 4 months. Would I host an engagement party at the house? Of course I said yes. Sarah would have loved to see Jason happy. I wanted to do this for both of them. The morning of the party, I was up early, the way I always am, made coffee, scrambled some eggs, sat at the kitchen table, reading the newspaper. This table, solid oak, Sarah and I found it at an estate sale in 1984. She refinished it over 3 weekends, sanding and staining until it gleamed. Our initials are carved underneath, hidden where no one looks. I ran my hand over the smooth surface, thinking about how many meals we'd shared here, how many conversations, how many quiet Sunday mornings just like this one. Jason's key rattled in the front door around 9. He still had the key from when he was a teenager, even though he lived in a high-rise condo downtown now. He walked in with Melissa, both of them carrying grocery bags and boxes of decorations. "Morning, Dad," Jason said, setting bags on the counter. He looked tired, the way he always did lately. Dark circles under his eyes, shoulders tight with stress. "Morning, son. Coffee's fresh." Melissa swept in behind him, all energy and efficient movement. She's petite, with perfect posture and the kind of polished appearance that suggests she spends serious time and money maintaining it. Everything matched, from her athleisure outfit to her designer sneakers. "Bob, hi," she'd insisted. I call her by her first name from the first time we met, even though I'd offered Mr. Harrison out of habit. This place is perfect for the party. So much natural light, such good bones. She said it the way someone might compliment a vintage car they were planning to restore and flip. I noticed, but said nothing. They started setting up, and I moved to help, but Melissa waved me off. No, you just relax, Bob. We've got this handled. You've done enough, just letting us use your beautiful home." The way she said your home had a strange emphasis, like she was reminding herself of a fact she found temporarily inconvenient. Jason was already rearranging furniture in the living room, pushing Sarah's antique reading chair into a corner to make space. "Jason, be careful with that chair," I said quietly. "Your mother spent 2 years restoring the upholstery." "I know, Dad. I'm being careful." But he wasn't looking at me, was already moving on to the next task Melissa had assigned him. I retreated to my study, a small room off the hallway where I kept my books and Sarah's photo albums. I could hear them talking in the other room, their voices carrying through the old house's thin walls. "We need to talk to him soon," Melissa was saying. "The market's hot right now. If we wait until winter, we'll lose momentum." "I know, but today's not the right day. It's our engagement party. Jason, honey, that's exactly why it's the perfect day. He'll be in a good mood, surrounded by family and friends. He'll see we're building a future. He'll want to help us." A pause. Then Jason, sounding uncertain, "I just don't want to pressure him." "It's not pressure. It's being practical. He's almost 70, alone in this huge house. He should be in a nice senior community where there's activities, where he can make friends his own age. You said yourself he barely goes anywhere. He volunteers. He's at the library all the time." "Exactly. He has no life, Jason. This house is an anchor holding him back from actually enjoying his retirement, and we could really use the money for the down payment. Your dad would want to help us." I sat very still in my study, Sarah's photo in my hand. The picture was from our anniversary trip to the coast, 5 years before she got sick. "She's laughing at something," I'd said, the wind catching her gray hair, her eyes bright with joy. I set it down carefully and walked back to the kitchen, my footsteps deliberately heavy so they'd hear me coming. They stopped talking immediately. Melissa was suddenly very busy arranging flowers. Jason was checking his phone. "Need any help?" I asked. "We're great, Dad, thanks." The guests started arriving around 2. Family, friends, some of Jason's colleagues, several of Melissa's real estate contacts. I recognized a few faces from the neighborhood. Everyone brought wine and congratulations. The house filled with noise and laughter, the kind Sarah always loved. I should have been happy. Instead, I felt a strange tightness in my chest, like something was coming that I couldn't stop. I was in the kitchen refilling the cheese board when Melissa called for everyone's attention. She was standing in the living room with Jason, both of them glowing with that particular excitement of young people announcing their future. I stayed in the doorway, watching. "Thank you all so much for coming," Melissa said, her voice carrying easily through the crowd. She had that practiced confidence of someone who gave presentations for a living. "Jason and I are so grateful to be surrounded by the people we love as we start this new chapter." People clinked glasses, called out congratulations. Jason put his arm around her waist. "We have something else exciting to share," Melissa continued. "Jason's father, Bob, has been so incredibly generous." She turned to smile at me, and I felt every eye in the room follow. "He's helped us realize that this beautiful house, full of so many wonderful memories, deserves a family who can really fill it with life again. So we're thrilled to announce that we'll be listing it next month." The words hit me like cold water. Several people started clapping. Someone called out, "How wonderful!" I just stood there, cheese knife in hand, unable to process what I'd just heard. "Bob's going to transition to a lovely senior living community," Melissa went on, "where he can focus on enjoying retirement without worrying about maintenance and upkeep. And we'll be using the proceeds to help with our first home. It's perfect timing all around." My neighbor, Margaret Rodriguez, caught my eye from across the room. She's a retired attorney, sharp as a tack at 74. Her expression was carefully neutral, but I saw the question there. "Did you know about this?" I shook my head slightly. Her eyes narrowed. Jason looked uncomfortable now, shifting his weight, not quite meeting my gaze. He started to say something, but Melissa was already talking again, discussing square footage and market values with a cluster of her real estate friends. Someone asked about the listing price, and I heard Melissa estimate low 2s, maybe 2.3 if we stage it right. $2.3 million for the house Sarah and I bought for $78,000. I set down the cheese knife and walked quietly out to the backyard. The garden was Sarah's pride. I've kept it going as best I can, though I don't have her touch. The tomatoes were just starting to ripen. The basil was bushy and fragrant. The roses she planted along the fence were in full bloom. Behind me, I heard the party continuing. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. I thought about Sarah, about how she'd react to this moment. She would have been furious, I think, but also heartbroken. Jason was our only child. We'd given him everything we could, supported every dream, celebrated every success. We'd never held him back, never made demands, never asked for anything in return except that he be happy. The back door opened. It was Margaret Rodriguez. "Bob," she said quietly, coming to stand beside me. "Did you agree to sell the house?" "No." "Did you know Jason and Melissa were planning this?" "No." She was quiet for a moment, looking at the garden. "Do you know whose name is on the deed?" "Mine. Sarah and I bought this house together. When she passed, it went to me. It's mine. Does Jason know that?" I thought about it. He must. But I don't think Melissa does. Or if she does, she's convinced Jason. She can talk me into it. Margaret turned to look at me directly. "Bob, you're one of the kindest men I know. But kindness without boundaries isn't kindness. It's just letting people take advantage. I don't want to ruin Jason's engagement party. He's the one who let his fiancée announce she's selling your house to a room full of people without asking you first." She put her hand on my arm. "I'm telling you as a friend and as someone who practiced law for 40 years. Document everything. If they start bringing realtors, taking photos, making plans without your explicit consent, you need evidence. You think it'll come to that?" She looked at me with something like pity. "Bob, I think it already has." We stood there in silence for a while, listening to the party inside my house, the house that someone had just decided wasn't mine anymore. When I came back inside, the party was winding down. People were saying their goodbyes, thanking me for hosting, congratulating Jason and Melissa again. I smiled and nodded and said all the appropriate things, but I felt like I was watching myself from outside my body. Jason found me as the last guests were leaving. "Dad, I'm sorry." Melissa got excited and jumped the gun. "We were going to talk to you privately first." "Were you?" He heard something in my voice, looked at me more carefully. "You're upset. You're selling my house, Jason." "Yes, I'm upset." "We're not selling your house, Dad. We're helping you transition to somewhere more appropriate for your stage of life. You're going to be 70 soon. This house is too much for one person. The stairs alone. I walk 3 miles every morning. The stairs aren't a problem, but they will be eventually. We're thinking ahead. And honestly, Dad, you're sitting on a huge amount of equity that could make both our lives better. You could afford a really nice place, with activities and people your own age. You'd make friends, get out more. Don't you want that?" I looked at my son, this man I raised, and tried to figure out when he'd learn to talk to me like I was a problem to be managed. "What I want," I said quietly, "is for you to have asked me before announcing to 50 people that you're selling my house. Melissa's a real estate agent, Dad. She knows what she's talking about. The market's not going to stay this hot forever. We have to move quickly." "No," I said. "You don't." He blinked, surprised. I rarely contradicted him directly. "Dad, this is my home, Jason. Your mother and I built our life here. She's in every corner of this house. I'm not ready to leave her behind." I saw frustration flash across his face. "Mom's gone, Dad. She's been gone for 2 years. You can't live in a shrine forever. It's not healthy." The words stung more than I'd expected. Before I could respond, Melissa appeared in the doorway. "Jason, honey, we should get going. Early showing tomorrow." She turned to me with her practiced smile. "Bob, thank you so much for today. The house really is perfect. I'm going to send my photographer next week to get some shots for the listing. Maybe Tuesday morning? The light's best then." She said it like it was already decided, like I'd agreed, like my house was already hers to schedule and plan and sell. "Melissa," I said, keeping my voice level, "I haven't agreed to sell." She laughed, a bright, dismissive sound. "Oh, Bob, I know it's a big decision. That's totally normal. Once you see the numbers, though, you'll feel better about it. I promise. I've helped dozens of seniors make this transition. It's always scary at first, but everyone's so much happier afterward. I'm not scared. I'm not selling." Her smile stayed in place, but something hardened behind her eyes. "We'll talk more later, when you've had time to process. Jason, honey, we really should go." They left. I stood in my suddenly quiet house, surrounded by the debris of the party. Paper plates, empty glasses, flowers Melissa had arranged. I picked up a glass and noticed it had left a ring on Sarah's coffee table. She'd been so careful with that table, always used coasters, always wiped up spills immediately. I grabbed a cloth from the kitchen and rubbed at the mark until it disappeared. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Melissa's face when I'd said no, the way she'd dismissed my words like they were just an obstacle to work around. I thought about Jason saying this house was a shrine, like my love for Sarah was something morbid instead of something sacred. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and went to my study. I pulled out the metal file box where Sarah and I kept our important documents. The deed to the house, our wills, insurance policies, her death certificate. Everything organized and labeled in Sarah's neat handwriting. The house deed was straightforward. Both our names had been on it, and when Sarah died, the house transferred to me automatically. It was mine, free and clear. But there was another document underneath, one I'd forgotten about. 10 years ago, when we were setting up our estate planning, our attorney had recommended putting the house in a living trust. Sarah had been adamant about it. She'd grown up watching her parents lose their farm in a messy probate battle, and she was determined we'd protect what we'd built. The trust named me as the primary beneficiary and trustee, with full control as long as I lived. Jason was named as a secondary beneficiary, but only after my death. The trust was irrevocable. I read through the documents twice, making sure I understood. Then I put everything back in the box and went to bed. The next morning, my doorbell rang at 8:30. I was still in my bathrobe, hadn't even finished my first cup of coffee. I opened the door to find Melissa standing there with another woman, both of them dressed in business attire and carrying tablets. "Bob!" "Good morning." Melissa's brightness felt aggressive this early. "This is Karen, my photographer. I know I mentioned Tuesday, but her schedule opened up, so I thought we'd just go ahead and get started. Is now okay?" She was already stepping inside before I could answer, Karen following behind her. "Actually, Melissa, now isn't a good time." "Oh, this won't take long at all." "Maybe 30 minutes? Karen's a pro." Melissa was walking through my living room, pointing at things, talking to Karen about angles and staging. "We'll want to emphasize the crown molding, the original hardwood. Declutter a bit, obviously. Bob, you'll need to pack up a lot of these personal items before we do the official listing photos. All the photos on the walls, the knickknacks. Buyers want to envision their own stuff in the space." "Melissa," I said it louder this time, "I haven't agreed to sell the house." She turned, and for just a moment, the bright smile slipped. "Bob, we talked about this yesterday. Jason told me you just need some time to adjust to the idea. I totally get that. But market-wise, we really can't wait. Interest rates are about to go up, and the neighborhood's peak desirability is right now. In 6 months, who knows? This isn't about timing. This is about the fact that I don't want to sell my house." The smile came back, but thinner now. Patient, like she was dealing with a confused child. "I understand you're feeling emotional about it. That's completely normal. But Jason and I have talked through all the options, and this really is the best choice for everyone. You'll love the senior community we've picked out. They have a woodworking shop, a library, organized trips to museums. You won't have to worry about yard work or repairs or being alone all the time. I like yard work. I like my house. I'm not alone. I have friends, neighbors, a life." Karen, the photographer, was looking increasingly uncomfortable, glancing between us like she wanted to disappear. "Bob," Melissa's voice had an edge now, "I think you're not seeing the bigger picture. Jason's your only child. He's trying to build a life with me. We need financial help to buy our first home, and you're sitting on over $2 million of equity you're not even using. Don't you want to help your son?" There it was. The real argument underneath all the talk about senior communities and market timing. They wanted my money. If Jason needs financial help, he can ask me himself, not send his fiancée to take photos of my house without permission. Melissa's face flushed. "I'm not just his fiancée. I'm going to be his wife. I'm going to be your daughter-in-law. We're family. And family helps each other. Family also asks before making plans about other people's property." We stared at each other. Karen quietly started backing toward the door. "I'm going to be honest with you, Bob," Melissa said, her voice dropping low, conversational but with steel underneath. "Jason's worried about you. He thinks you're depressed. Maybe not thinking clearly since Sarah died. He's mentioned maybe you need to see someone, get evaluated. Make sure you're still competent to make major decisions. The words landed like a punch. She was threatening me with a competency evaluation, implying I wasn't mentally fit to control my own property. Get out of my house, I said quietly. Bob, get out. Now. And don't come back without an invitation. She stood there for another moment, probably calculating whether to push harder or retreat. She chose retreat. I'll call Jason. I think he needs to have a serious conversation with you about what's realistic here. She left, Karen scurrying after her. I closed the door and locked it, my hands shaking. I'd never been a confrontational man. Sarah used to joke that I'd apologize to a chair if I bumped into it. But something about this moment, about Melissa standing in my living room, implying I was mentally incompetent because I wouldn't let her sell my house, triggered something in me. Rage, maybe. Or just the final breaking of whatever patience I'd been clinging to. I called Margaret Rodriguez. They're going to try to have me declared incompetent, I told her. Let them try, she said. Bob, you're sharp as ever. No doctor would sign off on that unless Jason committed fraud. But you should protect yourself anyway. I'm coming over. She arrived 30 minutes later with her grandson, Marcus, who practiced estate law. He was 32, professional, carried a briefcase that looked like it cost more than my car. Mr. Harrison, he said, shaking my hand firmly. Grandma filled me in. I've dealt with situations like this before. Let's make sure you're protected. We sat at Sarah's oak table, and I showed them all the documents. Marcus reviewed everything carefully, asking questions, taking notes. Okay, he said finally. Here's the situation. The house is in an irrevocable living trust with you as trustee and primary beneficiary. Your son has no legal claim to the property until after your death, and even then, only if the trust terms haven't changed. You have complete control. Legally, they can't force you to sell. But they can make my life hell trying, I said. Probably, Marcus agreed, especially if the fiancé's pushing it. She sees dollar signs. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to send a formal letter to your son and his fiancée, clearly stating the legal ownership and your refusal to sell. This creates a paper trail. If they continue pushing after receiving this letter, especially if they try the competency angle, that's harassment. We can fight it. I don't want to fight my son. Margaret reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Bob, I know, but Jason's not acting like your son right now. He's acting like someone who's been convinced his inheritance is more important than your well-being. That's not the young man, Sarah raised. I thought about Jason as a boy, how he used to help Sarah in the garden, digging holes for her roses, getting dirt all over himself and laughing about it. How he'd sit at this very table doing homework while Sarah and I cooked dinner, the three of us talking about our days. When did I lose that kid? When did he turn into someone who'd let his fiancée threaten his father with a competency evaluation? Send the letter, I said. The next few weeks were tense. Jason called several times, but I let it go to voicemail. He left messages saying Melissa had overstepped. He was sorry. Could we talk? But underneath the apologies was frustration that I wasn't being reasonable. Then one afternoon, I came home from my volunteer shift at the literacy center to find someone had been in my house. Nothing was missing, but things were moved. Sarah's photo albums, which I kept in the study, were stacked on the dining room table. The furniture had been rearranged slightly in the living room, and on my kitchen counter was a folder full of brochures for senior living communities, with a sticky note in Melissa's handwriting. Thought you'd want to look these over. Call me when you're ready to visit them. M. She'd used Jason's key. She'd been in my house without permission. I called Marcus immediately. He told me to document everything, take photos, don't touch anything she'd left. Then I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed. Jason showed up at my door that evening, furious. You changed the locks? Dad, are you serious right now? You gave Melissa a key to my house. She came in without permission. She went through my things. She was trying to help. You won't answer our calls. You won't engage with the very reasonable options we're presenting. What else are we supposed to do? You're supposed to respect that I said no. Jason ran his hand through his hair, a gesture he'd done since he was a teenager when he was stressed. Dad, I don't think you understand how much we need this. Melissa and I have a budget for our house, and the market's insane right now. We can't afford anything decent on our salaries alone. The plan was always to use the equity from this place for our down payment. You've got over $2 million just sitting here, doing nothing. You don't need it. You're one person, living on a pension. Let me have it now, when I actually need it, instead of making me wait until you die. The words hung in the air between us. Let me have it now instead of making me wait until you die. Jason, I said quietly, do you hear yourself? He had the grace to look ashamed, but only for a moment. Then the frustration came back. I didn't mean it like that. But Dad, come on, you're being selfish. This house is too big for you anyway. Mom's gone. It's just you here, alone, surrounded by old memories. It's not healthy. Melissa thinks you're depressed. And honestly, I'm starting to agree. Maybe you should talk to someone. I'm not depressed, Jason. I'm content. There's a difference. Contentment doesn't mean hoarding a house you don't need when your son is trying to build his future. I looked at this man, my son, who I'd raised to be kind and thoughtful, and wondered how we'd gotten here. I need you to leave now, I said. Dad, leave. And don't come back until you're ready to apologize for what you just said. He left. I stood at the window and watched him get in his expensive car and drive away, back to his expensive condo, to his fiancée, who saw my home as nothing more than a transaction. That night, Margaret came over with wine and sympathy. He said he doesn't want to wait until I die to get the money, I told her. She sighed. I'm sorry, Bob. This is what happens when people start thinking about what they're entitled to instead of what they're grateful for. I raised him better than this. You did. But Melissa's in his ear, and he's young and in love and convinced this is about their future together. He doesn't see that he's choosing money over his relationship with you. What do? You stand your ground, and you document everything. Because I promise you, this isn't over. She was right. 2 days later, a for sale sign appeared on my front lawn. I was pulling into my driveway after grocery shopping when I saw it. A big professional sign from Melissa's real estate company, with her photo and phone number, announcing that my house was for sale. I called Marcus immediately. He arrived within an hour, took photos of the sign from every angle, then called Melissa's broker. The sign was removed within 3 hours, he told me afterward. Her broker was horrified. Apparently, Melissa listed the property without authorization. Her broker apologized profusely and said this was completely unacceptable. Will there be consequences for Melissa? Professionally? Probably just a reprimand. But Bob, this helps us. She's creating a pattern of overreach. If they try anything else, we have evidence of harassment. That weekend, I got a call from an estate appraiser Melissa had hired, wanting to schedule a time to evaluate the property. I told him the property wasn't for sale, and he'd been hired under false pretenses. Then a moving company called to schedule a consultation about packing and relocating my belongings. Then a senior living community called to follow up on my inquiry about their one-bedroom units. Each time, I explained that I hadn't requested any of these services, that my house wasn't for sale, that I wasn't moving. Each time, they said Melissa Chen had contacted them on my behalf. She was trying to create momentum, to make it feel like the move was inevitable, already in progress. It was a sales technique, I realized. Get the customer so far into the process that backing out feels harder than going forward. But I wasn't her customer. I was her fiancé's father, and this was my home. Marcus sent another cease and desist letter, this one more strongly worded. But it was like trying to stop a flood with sandbags. Melissa was relentless. The worst day was when I came home to find her in my house again. She'd somehow gotten another key, or picked the lock. I don't know. She was in the living room with a staging consultant, discussing paint colors and furniture arrangements. Bob! She didn't even have the grace to look embarrassed at being caught. Perfect timing. This is Devin. He does staging for all my high-end listings. Devin, this is Bob, Jason's dad. Devin's got some great ideas about modernizing the space. Bob, you wouldn't believe what a difference. Get out. Bob, please. I know we got off on the wrong foot, but I'm actually trying to help you here. The faster we sell, the faster you can settle into your new place. amazing community. It's got art classes and a movie theater. I'm calling the police. That's stalker. That's a little dramatic, don't you think? I'm family. You're not family. You're someone who keeps breaking into my house against my explicit wishes. That's called trespassing. I pulled out my phone. She grabbed her purse and left. Devin trailing after her, looking mortified. I did call the police. I filed a report. The officer who took my statement was sympathetic, but said, unless I wanted to press criminal charges, there wasn't much they could do. I didn't want to press charges. Not yet. That felt like a line I wasn't ready to cross. But I called Jason and left him a message. Your fiancée is breaking into my house. I filed a police report. If she enters my property again without permission, I will press charges. And Jason, you need to decide if you're okay with how she's treating me. Because if you are, then I don't know who you are anymore. He showed up that evening. We sat in the living room, not quite looking at each other. Dad, I'm sorry. Melissa's just really passionate about her work. And she gets carried away sometimes. She's not passionate, Jason. She's obsessed with permission. And with getting her hands on my money, that's not fair. She loves me. Does she? Or does she love what she thinks I'm going to give you? He was quiet for a long moment. What do you want me to say, Dad? I want you to tell me you understand that this is my house, my decisions, my life. I want you to tell me that my home means more to you than a down payment. I want you to tell me you remember that your mother and I built this place with our own hands and hearts. And that matters. I remember, he said quietly. Of course I remember. But Dad, Mom's gone. And you're going to be 70 soon. How long are you really going to be able to maintain this place? What happens when you can't do the stairs anymore? Or you need help? Or something happens to you and you're all alone here? Then I'll deal with it when it happens. But it hasn't happened yet. I'm healthy. I'm active. I'm capable. Stop treating me like I'm already incapacitated. I'm trying to think ahead. No, Melissa's trying to think ahead. To when she thinks she'll get money. You're just letting her. He stood up. I'm not going to sit here and listen to you insult my fiancé. Then don't. But Jason, you need to choose. Her or me. Because the way things are going, you can't have both. He left without saying goodbye. That night, I sat in Sarah's chair and cried for the first time since her funeral. I cried for my son, who'd lost his way. I cried for the future I'd imagined, with grandchildren running through this house, family dinners, Jason and I maintaining the relationship we'd always had. I cried because I was tired and lonely and didn't know how to fix what was broken. But in the morning, I got up. I made coffee. I went for my walk. I volunteered at the literacy center. I lived my life in my house, on my terms. 2 weeks later, Jason and Melissa sent out invitations to their wedding. 6 months away, at an expensive vineyard in the Willamette Valley. Melissa's parents were paying for most of it, apparently. But there was a line in the invitation about gifts can be sent to our home fund. Not subtle. I wasn't sure I was even going to go. But Margaret convinced me otherwise. Bob, you're his father. Whatever's happening between you three, he's still your son. Go to the wedding. Be there. Show him you're the bigger person. So I RSVP'd yes, knowing it was probably a mistake. Things were quiet for a few weeks. No more break-ins. No more calls from service providers Melissa had hired without authorization. I started to hope maybe they'd given up. Then one morning, I got a call from Marcus. Bob, did you know Melissa's been telling people you have dementia? My blood went cold. What? One of my grandmother's friends mentioned it at their book club. Said Melissa had shared with her that her poor future father-in-law was struggling with memory loss and the family was trying to get him into a facility. I checked around. She's been spreading this story for weeks. It was brilliant, really. Melissa couldn't force me to sell, couldn't break into my house anymore, couldn't physically make me move. But she could destroy my credibility. If enough people believed I was mentally incompetent, it would be easier to pressure me, easier to build a case for having me evaluated, easier to take control. What do? I asked Marcus. Get yourself evaluated by a doctor you trust. Get it in writing that you're mentally sound. We create evidence that contradicts her narrative. I made an appointment with my doctor, Dr. Sarah Kim, who I'd been seeing for 20 years. I explained the situation, showed her the letters from Marcus, told her about Melissa's campaign. Dr. Kim did a full evaluation, cognitive tests, memory tests, even had me talk to a geriatric psychiatrist. At the end of 2 hours, she wrote me a letter certifying that I showed no signs of dementia, cognitive decline, or mental incompetence. I was of sound mind, capable of making my own decisions, and anyone claiming otherwise was either mistaken or acting in bad faith. I had Marcus send copies of the letter to Jason and Melissa, along with another cease and desist, specifically about the dementia claims. The letter made it clear that spreading false information about someone's mental capacity could constitute defamation. Jason called me that night. "Dad, I didn't know she was doing that. I swear." "Didn't you? Or did you just not ask?" Silence. "Jason, I need to know something. Do you actually believe I'm incompetent, or are you just willing to let Melissa say whatever it takes to get what you want?" "I don't know what to believe anymore," he said quietly. "You're acting so different from how you used to be. You used to be easygoing, willing to compromise. Now you're fighting us on everything." "I'm not fighting you on everything. I'm defending my right to live in my own home. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Because from here, it looks like you're choosing a house over your relationship with your son." "Jason, you're the one who said you didn't want to wait for me to die to get your inheritance. You're the one who's been siding with a woman who breaks into my house and lies about my mental state. I'm not choosing a house over you. You're choosing money over me." He hung up. The wedding was 3 weeks away. I still didn't know if I should go. Part of me wanted to skip it, avoid the drama, make a point. But another part of me, the part that remembered holding newborn Jason in this very house, helping him learn to walk in this hallway, teaching him to ride a bike in this driveway, that part couldn't give up. The night before the wedding, Margaret came over to help me pack. "You're doing the right thing," she said. "Going, I mean." "Am I? It's going to be awful, probably. But you'll regret it forever if you don't go. Trust me on this one." The wedding was beautiful. Melissa had spared no expense. The vineyard was gorgeous, the weather perfect, everything carefully curated and photographed for maximum social media impact. I sat in the third row, watching my son marry a woman I barely recognized, feeling like a stranger at my own child's wedding. During the reception, I made the rounds, saying hello to relatives I hadn't seen in years. Jason's cousins, aunts and uncles, old family friends. Several people asked about the house, whether it was true I was moving. I kept my answers vague and changed the subject. Melissa's parents were there, nice people, seemed a little overwhelmed by the extravagance of their daughter's wedding. Her father, David, cornered me at one point. "Bob, I want to apologize for Melissa," he said quietly. "My wife and I didn't raise her to be so pushy about money. I think she's just excited about starting her life with Jason, and she gets tunnel vision. But what she's been doing to you isn't right. Does Jason know how you feel?" I've tried to talk to him. He listens, but then Melissa gets in his ear again. She's very persuasive. He looked sad. I worry about them, honestly. This wedding, the house hunt, all of it, it's about appearances for her. I'm not sure she knows what marriage actually is. During the dinner, Melissa stood up to give a toast. She thanked everyone for coming, talked about how perfect everything was, how this was the wedding of her dreams. Then she turned to Jason. "And babe, I just want to say, we're so close to our dream life. Just one more piece needs to fall into place, and then everything will be perfect. We'll have our house, our family, our future. I can't wait." She looked directly at me when she said one more piece needs to fall into place. The message was clear. I was the obstacle. I was the piece that needed to fall into place. I left the reception early, pleading exhaustion. I didn't say goodbye to Jason or Melissa. I just left. Driving home through the darkening evening, I thought about what David had said. Melissa didn't know what marriage actually was. Sarah and I, we'd known. Marriage was compromise and patience and choosing each other even when it was hard. It was Sarah sanding that table for 3 weekends. Not because it was fun, but because we'd build something together. It was me holding her hand through chemotherapy. Not because I was strong enough, but because she needed me. It was 42 years in the same house, the same life, choosing each other every single day. Melissa and Jason didn't have that. They had a transaction disguised as a romance, and I was the asset they were trying to liquidate. When I got home, there was a note taped to my front door. In Melissa's handwriting, "Bob, we need to talk. I'm giving you 2 weeks to reconsider. After that, I'm filing paperwork to have you evaluated for competency. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. M." A threat, clear and simple. Sell, or she'd try to have me declared incompetent and take control anyway. I called Marcus that night. He told me to save the note, that it was evidence of coercion. Then he said something that surprised me. "Bob, I think you need to go on the offensive here. Stop defending, start attacking. Let me file a harassment suit. Let me make this uncomfortable for them, because they're betting on you being too nice to fight back. Prove them wrong." I thought about it. About Sarah, who'd never backed down from a fight when it mattered. About the life we'd built in this house. About the principle of the thing. "Do it," I said. Marcus filed suit the next Monday. Harassment, trespassing, defamation, coercion. He listed every instance of Melissa entering my house without permission, every lie she'd told about my mental state, every service provider she'd hired in my name, the for sale sign, all of it. He requested damages and a restraining order. Jason called me, furious. "Dad, you're suing Melissa? Are you out of your mind?" "I'm protecting myself, Jason. Something you should have been doing for me. She's my wife. And I'm your father. Who should come first?" He didn't have an answer for that. The lawsuit got ugly. Melissa hired an aggressive attorney who tried to paint me as a spiteful old man trying to ruin a young couple's happiness. Marcus, thankfully, was better. He had documentation of everything. The illegal listing, the break-ins, the police report, the letters from Dr. Kim, the note threatening a competency evaluation, the false claims about dementia. In a deposition, Melissa tried to argue that she was just trying to help me, that I clearly wasn't thinking straight if I wanted to stay in such a big house at my age. Marcus asked her if she was a medical professional qualified to make that determination. She said no. He asked if she'd ever actually asked me what I wanted, or just assumed. She said she knew what was best. "You knew what was best for Mr. Harrison?" Marcus asked. "Better than he knows himself? He's not thinking clearly about the situation. Based on what evidence? Based on the fact that he's refusing a very reasonable suggestion that would benefit everyone. So anyone who disagrees with you isn't thinking clearly?" She didn't have a good answer for that. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, was not impressed with Melissa's defense. She granted the restraining order, prohibiting Melissa from coming within 500 feet of my property. She also awarded me damages for the trespassing and defamation, though Marcus had argued for more than she granted. But more importantly, she made a statement for the record. It is not illegal or irrational for a person to want to remain in their longtime family home. Mr. Harrison is of sound mind and has every right to reject his family's pressure to sell his property. This court finds that the defendant's behavior constitutes harassment, and such behavior will not be tolerated. It was over. Legally, at least. Jason stopped talking to me entirely after that. Changed his number, blocked me on social media, returned my Christmas card unopened. He chose Melissa, chose the money they thought they should have, chose resentment over relationship. It hurt. God, it hurt. But I stayed in my house. 3 years have passed now. I'm 70 years old. I still walk 3 miles every morning. I still volunteer at the literacy center. I still grow tomatoes and basil in Sarah's garden. Margaret comes over for dinner every Sunday. I've made friends at the library, joined a book club, even started teaching an evening course in literature at the community college. I'm not lonely. I'm not isolated. I'm not hoarding a house I don't need. I'm living the life Sarah and I built together, honoring her memory by staying in the home we made, making choices on my own terms. Sometimes I think about Jason, wonder if he's happy, if Melissa ever got the house she wanted, if they've had kids. I hope he's well. I hope someday he understands that I wasn't choosing the house over him. I was choosing myself, my agency, my right to live my own life, even when it inconvenienced his plans. Quiet doesn't mean weak, it just means selective about when to speak up. And when I did speak up, I learned I was stronger than I'd ever given myself credit for. This morning, I sat at Sarah's oak table with my coffee and the newspaper, my hand resting on the smooth surface she'd refinished all those years ago. Our initials are still carved underneath, hidden where no one looks. A secret between us, a promise kept. I'm staying. This is my house, my life, my choice. And that's enough.